Welcome back to Tug of Heart. Leroy and twin sister Lori doing our best to figure things out, sifting, sorting, solving, and soothing. Here we are. Last time we were here with the podcast, we really didn't put a bow on it nearly as much as we would like to. So we're going to take it a little bit further. One of the last things we ended on was, and again, we never want to challenge anybody with your faith or your belief system. But I did make a reference to the Grant Me the Serenity poem. Many call it a prayer. It's just for sake of conversation because we just want to share things that impact our lives, and we kind of try and figure ourselves out better. So that goes a little something like this. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Lori, welcome.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, good.
I
So
like this.
go ahead.
Well, I love what you're talking about. And I just wanted to add when you were saying about not challenging anybody's faith. Listen, let's just keep ourselves grounded. The only thing we need to move forward without doing that is to acknowledge nobody has a patent on serenity. So we could talk about it freely.
There you go. Well put. I like that. So what I was trying to tell you, when we were speaking last, was that they are literally aligned so neatly that they're really aids to each other. So we're saying, like, the very first thing it says is, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change and the courage to change the things I can. So when we start to accept the things we cannot change, change is already happening.
Woo, I like that.
So it's taking place simply by the serenity is found. The change, that requires courage is really found in the first instruction, which is grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change.
Right.
Love it. Love it. So that's where we left off. Did that hit you the same way it hit me?
Yeah, because I'm thinking right now, serenity, if you just substitute the word peace, which for serenity, you're saying it changes it to me because it makes me realize like there must be a certain peace within us that enables us to accept what we can't change. So without that inner peace, it implies that you might not accept change if you don't have a certain peace about it. Looks like you're ready to dig in. So what do you think next?
So I'm thinking about digging in here. Mine, if you will. I'm going to mine some deeper thought here. I think when we do these talks, Lori, what we're doing is literally just adding verbiage to feelings.
Yeah.
And in doing so, we're striking solutions.
Yes.
And so the solutions, the serenity, the this, the that, the other, is coming from vocalizing.
Right.
Which is so funny because nobody wants to talk about, I shouldn't say nobody because that's clearly not reality. But oftentimes we don't want to talk about problems.
No.
It's like out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
Or we get tired of talking about problems.
Or you lose friends.
Okay. Didn't see that one coming.
We're here to be honest. People become scarce if you're there, if you're like in like just forever misery.
Can you imagine, Lori? Think about what you just said. Like, hey, let's all go bowling. Should we call Lori? No, let's not call Lori. She's working stuff out. No, Lori wants to talk about stuff. She's working through things. Don't bring her.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that happens, but it's comical when you say, "Oh, I'll lose friends," you know. But we're finding, and by the way, Serenity now actually Seinfeld gets the credit, the Costanza, senior Costanza, Serenity now. So that being said, I'm glad we're vocalizing. I'm glad we're talking about this. I didn't see this coming, tug of heart. I wasn't sure what to expect initially. I got to be honest. I think we're figuring it out.
Yes.
Great idea, but I think we're figuring it out as we go.
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot. And I think a lot of it does come from just Marianne and I kind of had discovered this early on. It comes from something happens. Just you don't even have to know always how it's going to happen. This is a lot about what you said about like just moving forward and taking that step. It's a form of dedication. But beyond that, if you are dedicated to returning to what you're working on, it does start to peel back what needs to happen, and where you're headed kind of reveals itself along the way. The flip side is when you were talking about challenges, and it seems to me like what you're introducing is this way of staying within Serenity the entire length of that season of challenge and not waiting until you're delivered from it. Because I think nowadays, a lot of our thinking is that our peace, our contentment, our happiness, our behaving right, sometimes even, is put on hold until we confront what's in front of us. You ever see yourself or others? And I'm sorry, this is ugly, but it's like they're just pretty rough. I'm pretty rough. I'm talking about me when I say they, just so you know. But I'll be kind of rough with my household, with others or whatever. And it's because there's a kind of something going on. And it's like, when this is set right, I'll act right. That's a luxury that a responsible and good human should not afford themselves, in my opinion. I know that's a little righteous to say, but I do believe it. And I think what happens when we're trying to have this serenity now and not after the challenge, it comes from what you pointed out in our previous talk, where a challenge is a challenge, not going to be easy. Pain will be involved, possibly, but you have transformed that situation from being an aimless struggle or like this kind of empty torment in your life to something that you can see and approach and manage in your life. And that's empowering. And when people are empowered, I just think they act better.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah.
It's like I gave a lecture to you right now, huh?
Totally. I mean,
I felt like I was talking to one of my kids. I got into mom mode.
It's so obvious that I got to be honest, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but the first thing that comes to my mind is Dorothy on the yellow brick road. When they say you've had the power with you all along, because she was wearing the ruby slippers.
How does a rough around the edges guy like you hold that in their heart? I didn't even remember that. That's beautiful. Tell us more about the ruby slippers as a metaphor for life. I love that.
Well, I don't know. I remember watching that movie a long time ago, and it just popped in. Somehow the data is there. But I remember that she went through all these different things and challenges, and there was flying monkeys and wicked witches and all these different things. And in the course of collecting people, taking them with her to get a brain, get a heart, there was another, oh, and to get some courage. And along that path, she carried with her the the answer. She carried what she needed to get all of those things. I think she found out that her uncle was the one that needed the brain, and somebody
What?
else.
I didn't know all this.
Yeah, because when it went from the lion and the tin man and all this, when she was returned home, the same characters were in her life back home in Kansas.
Right. That's right.
But the idea is, and I was referring to what you were saying, that by accepting, we immediately begin to overcome. Recognizing that challenge has a lifespan, we start to kind of adorn ourselves with the pair of slippers, and the answer was with us all along. It was our mindset. It was our we had the power all along. We just didn't know it.
Right.
So
It's what's revealed about ourselves through challenge, right? You
yeah,
said adversity reveals us, right?
I said adversity doesn't build character, it reveals character.
That's right.
Because, oh, there you go again. It reveals it. It was with us all along. The character, the tenacity, the triumph. It was with us. We just didn't know it. So I guess there's a lot to be said about the ruby red slippers,
My gosh, you know what? This is
which doesn't make me feel particularly manly.
oh, I love this because this is let me see if I can organize a few thoughts and not take too much time about it. This has been something that has come up in my life. So I think it's a little ESP on your end that has brought all this up, because I have been actively working out some stuff that, like, some challenges that I guess I had put on the back burner, as if you can pause some things. But before that, I just want to add, I don't know why or what made you, I think you're just all kinds of heart this week or something, because you started with Serenity, okay? Where you accept what you can't change, courage to change what you can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And from there, you went to Dorothy and Oz, and it's brain, heart, courage. Brain being the wisdom, heart is serenity, right? And then courage is courage. So I just think think something happened to you, because you're talking like almost prophetic over here. When I think of stories, I also like, and something being with us all along, I think of Dumbo and the Feather. Because it also is that when you drop it, it is still with you. And that's what I was telling you about when you put that little imperfection on something, or that mark, the mark. It's a reminder, even though it is still not an error you carry with you, you carry that reminder that your capabilities, right? And that's what I think, it's important to do that. The other thing that you said is you keep coming back to the word recognition. And I think when it comes to challenge and anything difficult in life, for me, the most challenging thing, I guess I could say, about challenge itself is that recognition, in that a lot of times it's just seeing a thing for what it is. So when you see a challenge, it's seeing the true challenge in there. What aspects you can manipulate and change, what you can't, knowing the difference. There's a modern, I guess, philosopher, you could call him Peter Kraft, and he talks about the rule of 3 R's. And basically, all you have to know is right response to reality. So when you have a challenge like, I need to get in shape, and you hesitate for whatever reasons, it's only when you get that right response and take that step that and I want you to speak on this, that the challenge, you're in the advent of the next season. You have slowly begun shifting out of that season, which I love that you said that, because I wasn't thinking of it like that when I first started this talk. I was thinking we don't control the seasons, so almost like to be zen with what's happening. But now I'm like, the heck we don't. The seasons of our life, yes. We have control of our faculties. So right response to reality, I thought of that with what you were saying last time, because you said that the challenge itself slowly diminishes. And I wanted you to kind of reiterate that. And then if you can just expand on it, basically from where we're at right now.
So
I'm like excited about challenge right now. I don't know why. I love this.
So I think what I was trying to get at is that I guess a word that comes to mind is like diffuse. So sometimes it's not about, the solution is kind of diffusing it first, and we were talking about, how do we draw a sunset on challenge? And I was like, well, acknowledge, number one, that it's temporary.
Right.
If you're without a car, it doesn't mean you're going to be without a car for the rest of your life. If your bike has a flat tire, it doesn't mean you're going to have a flat tire for the rest of your days on the planet. There are some situations, where I know we could definitely be challenged, because there's some people that live in foreign countries that their life is difficult, and it will always be difficult by our standards, by what we recognize as challenge. But I assure you, those people still laugh and they still tell jokes.
Right.
The world is very relative to our experience. So one of the things, you're sitting here and you're talking about, overcoming and this and that and the other. A lot of times, and we're talking about the ruby slippers, and it was with you all along, and revealing character. One of the advantages that I had of only completing the 8th grade, and this is crazy to say it's an advantage, but nobody told me that I couldn't. And that's an incredible morsel of genius. If we don't know we can't do it, we typically do it. There was a story about this kid that was habitually late to math class. And he shows up late to math class. And the teacher, to make an example of him, puts an equation on the board and calls him to the front to do it. She's already explained to the rest of the class that it can't be done. But this guy missed that. And he comes to the front of the board and he starts working on this unsolvable equation. And he solves it. He solved it because he was 5 minutes late.
Yeah,
He didn't get the first part of the lesson, which is, this is an impossible equation. There is no solution. So he came and he took it from his vantage point, which is like, whoa, I'm behind, I'm late, better do my best work. Gets up to the board, solves an unsolvable equation.
That's amazing.
I think that all of this, kind of with a bow on it, is about recognizing that nothing is permanent. And I'm trying to close up our last topic, which bleeds over into today, but we definitely, we could all benefit from just being vehemently aware that challenge is temporary.
Yes.
We can go through all these different things, but it starts right there. If there's one thing that I could share with myself and with you, and with anybody listening. It's temporary. It's just temporary. Some things are certainly longer. And the problem with relativity is that when you're going through it, it feels like an eternity,
Right.
you know, but rest assured, it's temporary. And
Can
then
I?
you
Okay.
go ahead. I'm sorry, Lori.
Well, I wanted to, if you don't mind, I want to ask you a question about that. So, if I'm able to grasp this perspective that challenge is temporary, okay, and I can internalize it in a way that I actually shift the disposition of my heart to hold that this is temporary. The heart, when and in this instance, when I say heart, I'm talking about the deepest part of me truly believes now and understands that challenge is temporary. Okay. What might that change about challenge? Because and if it does, well, I'll ask the next question next after that. But what would it change about challenges?
Well, when you acknowledge something, you begin to build a callus.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I say it's temporary, you recognize it's temporary. That's no different than taking a shovel and beginning to dig a trench. On day one, you have blisters. On day two, they're screaming at you.
Right.
But on day 10, you start to form a little callus. And so acknowledging it is the beginning of a callus. So when we say it's temporary, I'm telling you, matter of factly, it is temporary. And it's not necessarily that we're going to overcome it, but we will build a callus, creating immunity to the challenge. So there's always going to be a solution, whether we solve it and begin to work on it. But remember, the minute you begin to build a callus, you're beginning to work on the solution.
I love this. Can I tell you what I'm thinking when you say this?
Shoot.
Um, the other thing is, I want to tell you about this little thing. It's called the P factor, but first I want to tell you about the blister, and then I'll take it to that. Because the other thing that is important is if you don't see it for what it is, this blister is temporary, but it's going to make me stronger. My hand more able to do what's before it. You might cover it and avoid building that callus. You bandage it up, or you move away from shoveling. I can't shovel because it hurts. So you don't go through that little temporary stage. You won't get the callus and the tool you needed to manage and handle a shovel or the equipment. There's a thing in medicine that Steve has told me about, and it's called the P factor. The P factor. Okay. And when people are in rehab after a painful surgery or an injury or whatever, the ones and they're talking about pain management, okay, there will be I guess certain people who want more to offset the pain, and there will be certain doctors who do more to relieve pain. But the ideal would be to balance the P factor, which is the pain factor. And what happens is they have found in patients that they have a surgery or any kind of recovery, including therapy, where they have to get stronger. Anybody who they have given enough medicine to remove all pain, they don't come out of rehab rehabbed. But the people, even if they've taken a little to alleviate pain, but they're still aware of pain, they will come out recovered with like huge advantages over the other group. And a lot of them can return back to normal. It is a phenomenon. They can't really explain it, but even the patients who choose less medicine to eliminate the pain or perceived suffering, when people ask them, how did you do it? And, why didn't you take more for the pain? They're like, no, I mean, there was just, I can't explain it, but it was such a good gauge for how to heal right and get strong right. Now, given that and what you said, what do you think?
Personal story.
Okay.
I have quantity 5 herniated discs in the thoracic region of my back, between the shoulder blades just below. Been there for a long time. Have 2 more in my neck. I don't know. Crazy when as a child. I don't know. Car accidents, motorcycle accident. I don't know. However, I went through the MRI process and just kind of figuring everything out. And it's funny that you're talking about this because the doctor said, let me get you over to pain management. Okay. So, okay, let's go to pain management. We're going to get you some physical therapy and we're going to get you over to pain management on the same day. And when I went to physical therapy, it's kind of, here's what we're going to do. And I says, is this going to, can it be corrected? No, but you may not feel it as much because you will beef up some muscles in your back. And okay. At the same time, I go visit pain management. Pain management says, oh my gosh, we're going to make you feel so much better. Here's what we're going to do. Do you have it? Are you allergic to opioids? Are you allergic to any medications? Have you considered this? And I'm like, so what will the experience be like? Well, you'll be out of pain. I'll be out of pain. Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm not sure. So what happens when my tolerance grows? Well, we constantly revisit, kind of where you're at. So through masking it, will I grow a tolerance? Some people do, I feel like maybe everybody does. So when you say it's about management, pain management, not pain elimination, because true pain management is a concert between remediation and enough, aids, I guess, to get you through the healing process. Am I hearing you correctly about Steve?
Uh-huh.
So that's my story. My story is like, I am very fearful about pain pills. I've seen a lot of people in really bad shape, and they are probably worse. I'm trying to make my understanding coincide with what you were saying about people leaving rehab. But they were notably worse after, the pain management, AKA pain elimination. And now their body craved it, wanted it. The injury has long since been ignored. And now it's just been about, I guess, living pain-free. So interesting topic. For me, yeah, it was a no-go. It was kind of a non-starter.
And it has everything, I think, to do with challenge because nowadays we live in a society that I think a lot of times sees pain-free living as like the normal state of being, of existing. Okay. And this is actually really abnormal. It's only been the last, I don't know, century that we've had pain meds over the counter or otherwise. So it's most of the time we've not had it. So we're actually quite abnormal. But what happens is this idea of having no pain moves over into being challenge free and mistaking life for or life's nature in that you think it should be challenge free. And what happens is in the same way you remove pain, you remove all challenge. Do you think you would also remove the healing element that humans need?
We know this. Walk into any gym and you'll see somebody wearing a t-shirt that says no pain, no gain. We know.
But I mean, in terms of challenge, right? There is no such thing as challenge-free living. And it changes everything about a society when we seek that and think that that should be attainable. We make a lot of mistakes and we trip up on ourselves so much. And I think we make it a lot more painful. It's the opposite of what you said previously, right?
Well, what happens is that we forfeit healing for a pain-free existence today.
Right. And healing means being made stronger or whole, right?
I mean, I feel like we've come a long way from where we started this conversation, but yes, absolutely. Isn't scar tissue stronger? Isn't a mended bone stronger where the mend was?
Right. But
It could
that's
break likely somewhere else, but not there. And so is probably true about our heart. If we are trying to address challenges in our heart, to addressing them, makes that stronger.
addressing challenges in the heart makes for a
The
stronger
heart
heart.
stronger. Right. I mean, and that's not to say it's not going to be impaled by something else, because we've already recognized that, challenge is certain. It's a certainty.
A certainty. That's all these examples I'm giving. I guess that's what I'm trying to, that's what I just know it now that I've heard it. That is the answer I guess I was looking for. Challenge is a certainty. As much as when we're in winter, at least here, you're not seeing as much of it in good old Florida, but it
Just so
comes
you
back.
know, we had a cold snap. It was like 78.
Oh, rough.
And we had a cold snap, and the wind was blowing from the east at about 7. And I mean, it was miserable.
Yeah. Did you have to get your equipment out and remove a leaf from the walkway?
Parka out.
Yes. This makes me think too of how I think Dad used to say it. I'm sure he didn't create it, but he used to re-say it to us. And that's that a lot of times in life that we're surprised by certain things. And I think in this case, I'm talking about challenge. But the only surprise is that we're still surprised when a challenge presents itself, right? And that goes back to what I originally began with, in that we sit in shock and awe at the beginning of a challenge can postpone our addressing it, which is what you said. Doesn't that delay addressing it when we're like, what? No fair, looking for why it arose rather than here it is. I knew it would happen. You know why? Because whenever there's peace, the only out is that another problem rises, or challenge, I should say, more than problem.
You want to talk about acknowledgement? You know what else Dad used to say? Fair. The only fare I know is bus fare.
Yeah, because if we're also caught up looking for a type of fairness that hasn't been resolved since the beginning of time. And I'm not saying that we should not seek, justice is an important part of the heart, but I am saying that you don't want to remove the P factor of even unfairness of life, because that is kind of a natural aspect, even though it's an uncomfortable one, that can deteriorate the heart if you resent it, or you can build your heart in the face of all kinds of adversity, including unfairness, right?
I'm gonna say something, and I typically don't like to get confrontational, but fairness it's such a fluid thing nowadays. And the challenge today for me is that there's a lot of people that want to be the arbiters of fairness. They want to met out fairness universally.
Right. And that goes back to what you were saying about relativity. And that's why a person cannot speak in a reasonable way about fairness, because it's relative to their experience and their understanding.
Exactly.
And it becomes relative to their misunderstanding. And I include ourselves in this.
For sure.
And that's why I think a lot of times we avoid talking about that, because in terms of the heart, we're talking about a kind of knowing that um, to engage in that type of a conversation, it's very hard to talk from the heart and enter into pissing contests. And the reason I say that, there's not another way I can think of to say it, is to say that, like, when you get tangled up in talking about fairness and demanding it, you to do that requires a shift out of the heart, because it's no longer a universal. It is relative, and relative means personal experience. What we're talking about when we talk about the heart, it is deeper and greater than experience, and we're trying to untap something that we can't just make relative to what we've experienced, because it, theoretically there should be much more there than just what I happen to have happened upon in life, right?
I think that since we're talking about challenge and we think, oh, well, certain people are unfairly challenged.
Right. And this is a massive part of challenge I want to add. So I think it's relevant. Go ahead.
So when we think, oh, there's the disadvantaged, it's unfair. It's unfair that some people drive Bentleys and some people drive bikes or walk. That's unfair. But it's also unfair that some people can exist with the time to walk while the other person, works so much that they don't know their children. That's unfair. Right. So, it's what you're saying, which is kind of universal, yet very specific.
I want to just say one last thing about this, and then I'll let you have, I guess, the final thoughts. I don't know where we are for time, but I think what it comes down to in terms of fairness and challenges is, when you bring it back to the heart, it's knowing what we mean when we say fair and most right, if you want to call it that. And what is fair universally is simply to be free. And to be free means to be able to make right and good choices.
Well put.
And that's it. So, I mean, I'll end on that. We can revisit any part that we got terribly wrong or didn't cover the next time or another time.
Okay. Great way to close out what we started in the last talk. I mean, well done. We're starting to move a little bit away from it, but therein lies, I think, a lot of solutions. I got to ask you, as I did in the beginning, write in, ask questions. We want to start building a body of interest on topics that we can, talk about, that we can bring to light.
We want to learn.
Our lives are not the only relevant lives. We're doing this because we started with, Lori started with a really high interest in, becoming familiar and acquainted with her heart. And thank goodness. And through that, kind of dropped a little bit on me, and I started feeling some stuff. So I got to say, great work, Lori. Thank you. Like, share, comment. Thank you, Strong Island. And adios. Great. Yeah.
Until next time, please farewell, guys.